I'm Roy Diefendorf, and I wish that we were all together for this spectacular event. But I'll be speaking to you from my home in New York. And whatever you've heard about New Yorkers is probably true. You also need to know that New Yorkers are fast talkers, so buckle up your seatbelts. Here we go. The day was May 18th, 1980, in the Washington Cascade Mountains. At exactly 8:32 a.m., Mount St. Helens erupted with a force of 1,500 Hiroshima atomic bombs. Within just minutes of the explosion, ash began filling the air, and within 2 weeks, the smoke encircled the globe. The fact is, the mountain hadn't erupted for over 100 years, and people were asking, how could this have happened without real forewarning? But the truth is, if you were listening to the early grumblings in the ground, you would not have been surprised. Let's bring this idea up to present. Could we have predicted our current pandemic before it actually happened? Bill Gates did in a TED Talk he gave in 2015.
If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war.
So is it possible to predict a FAMdemic before it happens? FAMdemic. What does that even mean? Well, a FAMdemic is the breakdown of wealth transfer from one generation to the next generation within a family. It's when family relationships are broken due to money. It's when distrust abounds. It's when expectations are unclear and entitlement becomes rampant. It's when family unity is on life support. But is this FAMdemic that I'm referring to real or just a fabrication in my own mind? What are the tremors that I feel to indicate that a FAMdemic is real and ready to erupt? First, this requires me to redefine wealth. When I ask people to think about their wealth, they usually tell me, well, my wealth is my assets and my liabilities, my financial statement, my balance sheet, my last will and testament, my insurance. And all of these are wrapped with dollar signs. They're things that you can divide and multiply and quantify and spreadsheet. But my question is wealth really synonymous with money? That is sort of one-dimensional thinking in my mind. Because what about our social values and our social interactions? That's another dimension of our wealth. And what about our wisdom and knowledge and beliefs and convictions? That's a third dimension of our wealth. All of these, personal wealth, financial wealth, and social wealth, are what make up the totality of the family wealth. And in fact, from family wealth flows a family legacy. So financial legacy is the money you leave. Social legacy are the values you leave. And personal legacy is the wisdom you leave. And each of these are competing for your time, and so it's causing friction. And if we don't have a way to capture and protect and preserve each of these dimensions of your wealth, there's confusion, frustration, inertia, we don't know what to do, and ultimately damage. In fact, I'll go on to make this statement. Traditional, one-dimensional wealth management is flawed. I've come to this conclusion as a result of 50 years as an advisor and the research of many third parties concerning individuals' attitudes about money. So here's your first quiz of the day. It's what I call what matters most. Picture yourself, you're lying in bed, it's 2 a.m. in the morning, and your 5-year-old daughter tugs on your pajamas and says, Dad, I smell smoke. You quickly get your wife up, you say, get the kids. As you head out, you're heading out towards the mailbox by the tree where you gather in an emergency. And as you get out the door, you look back and you don't see flames. You think, I've got time to go back in and get some things. So the family heads out, but you go back in. And as you open the door, the smoke starts to billow, so you hit the floor. And as you're crawling up the hallway, your mind is racing 1,000 miles an hour. And you're thinking, in the bedroom, I have a fireproof box with $58,000 of cash in it. And then I think about my laptop. It's through the kitchen into the den on my desk. And I've got 6 months of work that I haven't backed up. And then I think of the box in the closet with all the family memorabilia and a 200-year-old Bible that I just got from my mother's estate. And I know time is running out. I have to make a split decision. I only have time to get one thing. I grab it, I turn around, I get out, and as I get out the door, the house bursts into flames behind me. So here's the question. What did you take? Did you go for the money? Did you go for the thing that makes the money? Or did you go for the thing that's more than money? Now, I've asked this quiz a number of times to large audiences, and here's usually the results. About 1 to 2% of the hands go up. They went for the money, the cash. About 10 to 20% went for the thing that makes the money, their laptop. But somewhere between 85 to 90% went for the more than money items. So, what matters most? The survey says their family. So here's the question. As advisors, are we scratching where they itch? Are we placing their more than money wealth above their money wealth? It's quite evident to me as an advisor that we are not. And here are 2 surveys that illustrate my point. The first is about risk perception. They asked families, what do you think is going to bite you? Well, the issues came up. 79% were money. 37% were investment risk. 26% economy and market risks. 16% tax and political. Only 7% were more than money issues. Poor family communication, lack of shared purpose, governance issues. The second survey was the risk reality. In other words, really, what did bite you? And what they found out is 85% were the more than money issues. 60% were due to the lack of communication and trust and shared purpose and education. 25% were due to unprepared and disengaged heirs. And only 3% were money issues due to the failures in financial planning, taxes, and investments. Can you see that we're totally missing the target? In the 2008 Summer Olympics, the U.S. track team was favored to win the gold medal, but they didn't. It wasn't because they didn't have the fastest runners. They did. It was because they dropped the baton during a handoff. In fact, the race is not won or lost by how fast the runners can run, but in the passing of the baton. The same is true with families transferring their wealth from one generation to the next. It's all in the handoff. In the relay race, it's the exchange zone that requires a well thought out, well rehearsed plan. There are 6 phases to the exchange zone, going from a standing still to running at full tilt side by side with the former runner until the exchange is made. Money managers will kill for an extra 20 basis points. They think that if they can run a little faster around the track, get a little better return on their investments, that's the answer. They're concerned about how big their alpha is. Don't get me wrong, return is important, but let's not major on the minors. Do you want to help your clients have a successful handoff of their family's total wealth from generation to generation? Then help them build a strategy to navigate their family exchange zone. My conclusion is that an advisor's education in the future must include more than money to address the total wealth of a family. Let me briefly outline the 5 components to the family exchange zone. They include communication, values, gratitude, legacy, and governance. If a family will address these 5 components with a strategic process, with the necessary effort applied, and investing the necessary financial resources to complete such a plan, then they will achieve a significantly better result than a random approach to wealth transfer. Remember, more money is not the answer. Not a day goes by that you don't read about FinTech, finance plus technology, as the tool that's going to help your family. But I believe that FAMtech, family plus technology, is what's necessary. FinTech is for your finances, but FAMtech is for your family. This will prepare the family for their wealth transfer, establish financial transparency within the family, model family interdependency, nurture family unity, and build the family legacy. Today, right from the palm of your hand, there's a tool that can prepare the heirs for the money, not just prepare the money for the heirs. My daughter Jenny said, "Dad, if it's not on my phone, you lost me. I do everything on my phone. In fact, I don't even look at my laptop." We need to speak the next generation's language if we're going to be successful in executing the family exchange zone efficiently. In 1952, the year I was born, Harry Markowitz won a Nobel Prize for his modern portfolio theory. He introduced a methodology for reducing risk through diversification, blending stocks and bonds and cash to ultimately improve returns. 68 years later, we're still referring to it as modern. In 2019, I introduced 3D portfolio theory, which took Markowitz MPT to a new dimension. I did this by adding family as an asset class. When we add intangible assets to the equation, we begin to address what matters most to our clients, their family. This new approach makes it possible to allocate a portion of one's financial resources towards navigating their exchange zone. The goal? Provide a process for the family's advancement and sustainability. In fact, to accomplish this, we've gone as far as adding family advancement and sustainability into our investment asset allocation software. In the year 1440, Johann Gutenberg invented the printing press, which was the start of the printing revolution. The interesting part of the story is that less than 1% of the world's population were literate. Put it another way, he had found a way to print books that no one was capable of reading. In the same way, FAMtech is a new technology that will allow advisors to become fluent in the more than money language, a language that no one is yet to speak. But how do you go from money-only advising to more than money advising? For me, it was when I came up with this pivotal question. Are you concerned about the damage that your money might do to your children? To which I get, exactly. We don't need more money. We've got enough of that. We're just concerned about what it's going to do to our kids. And then this was my follow-up question. Well, how much of your portfolio would you like to allocate towards your family? And they look at me and say, well, you can do that? I'd never heard of that before. And I said, well, in order to do that, we're going to have to take down your exposure to emerging markets, and we're going to have to allocate that towards your family. And one fellow says, I don't care about emerging markets. I care about my family. Precisely. One last story and we're done. In 1871, the Great Chicago Fire destroyed most of the city. But what is interesting is that the fire started on the other side of the river. Part of the explanation was that the ships in the harbor were constructed of wood. But the major reason was that the Union stockyards dumped all of their animal waste into the river. This actually made the river combustible. The water that should have been a fire retardant was really a fire accelerant. All the decay flowed into Lake Michigan, where the drinking water intakes for the city existed. Waterborne diseases naturally broke out. Every year from 1880 through 1890, at least 10,000 people died from cholera and typhoid fever. But in 1885, 14 years after the Great Fire, nearly 100,000 people died from the illnesses carried by the river's putrid water. Finally, the city engineers decided to do something about it. They dug 28 miles of canals. More earth and rock was moved than in the building of the Panama Canal. They set the locks and gates in place, and on January 1st, 1900, a worker opened up the drain gate, allowing Lake Michigan and the other Great Lakes to flow into the Chicago River, pushing it in a direction that it had never gone before. They reversed the flow of the river. It flowed the opposite way into the canal, into the Des Plaines River, into the Illinois River, and ultimately into the Mississippi River. This brought a huge flow of fresh water, and instead of shallow, sluggish, diseased water making the community sick, the river now brought the city life. Some argue that the city of Chicago would not exist today if they had not reversed the flow of the river. I submit to you that what is needed today is a re-engineering of wealth management to reverse the flow of more money as the financial industry's prescription for the individual's and family's betterment. Similar to the Chicago River, money alone can become a fire accelerant versus a fire retardant. Without a fresh inflow of more than money into the wealth management mix, the money by itself can become toxic. So what's your school teaching? Is it time to reverse the flow and bring a fresh new approach to the curriculum? I know only 10% of you are going to remember 10% of what I said 10 minutes after I said it. So allow me to summarize. To stop the spread of the upcoming FAMdemic, a combination of new vaccines are required. Here they are. Number one, three-dimensional total wealth management is necessary to address both a family's money and more than money wealth. Number two, family advancement and sustainability as an asset class is the tool to address what matters most, your family. And as a side note, I think my 3D portfolio theory should be considered for a Nobel Prize. Number three, FAMtech is the digital technology that will help prepare the heirs for the money and effectively navigate the exchange zone in an efficient manner. To reverse the flow of traditional, one-dimensional, money-only wealth management, it's going to take educators with the foresight to plant the seeds today for a better tomorrow. It's said that societies grow great when old men plant trees whose shade they'll never sit under. You know, what I'm talking about is 22nd century stuff. I won't live long enough to see the results, but you will. You are the future, so go out and create it. When I got a call from Craig Lemoyne, he said, "Do you think you give a TED-style talk for this event?" I told him, "I thought so. But I think I have to apologize because I just delivered a Theodore talk. It's like a TED talk, just longer." Well, it's been my job to talk and yours to listen. I just hope we ended at the same time.